Welcome to Bill Kinworthy. Today we're going to be making a roasted eggplant and tomato pasta sauce. Welcome to Bill Kinworthy. Today we're going to be focused on making a roasted eggplant and tomato pasta sauce. I was picking an eggplant from my garden yesterday and I decided to do something with them and I thought I'd just share. The ingredients for this are going to be tomatoes, eggplant, onion, garlic, and we'll be using some fresh basil. The rest of it will be a base for pasta sauce I always use, which includes olive oil and crushed red pepper, and then obviously salt to taste. There are no hard rules for the sauce. I just take whatever I have available that's ripening up in my garden and ready to use them. I try to keep all of my sauces very simple. All right, let's get started. So the first thing I've done is I've turned my oven on to 400 degrees to get the temperature up. While I'm waiting on that to happen, I grab my nice beautiful eggplant. I'm going to trim the stem off of it. Get that out of the way. Then I want to take a paring knife and I want to pierce the body of it, making sure I push in. This is going to let the air vent out, and I'll maybe do 6 or 7 spots like that. This will keep it from exploding in the oven. You want to always give room for the air to escape. Next, I will quarter up an onion. I like to use the just regular yellow onions. I like how they get sweeter as they get cooked down. Take and peel the skins off of it. I try to make sure I get down to the best layer possible, so I have a good clean onion. I don't have any other dead skin on it. Get that out of the way. Just going to quarter those up and have those ready to go. Next thing I'm going to do is take my garlic. I need to peel off the outer edge, get this down to the individual cloves. Alright, now that I've got all my garlic peeled, I want to smash the clove. That's going to help me get the outer skin off of it, and it's also going to help release the flavors into the olive oil. I take and I put a knife on top, and I just hit it like that. You want to make sure that you're not pushing into the blade so you don't cut yourself. Next thing you do, peel the husk off of it, and I've got a nice clove of garlic there. And voila, now we have our garlic ready to go. Now that we have our basic prep ready to go, we need to prepare the pan. I have a pretty large braising pan. Gonna put everything in here and roast it all together so that way I can save space in the oven. I need to add a little bit of olive oil to it. This will keep the eggplants and the other vegetables from sticking to the pan. I just move that around. Make sure it's evenly distributed. Okay, add my eggplants. Add my tomatoes. Throw the onions in. And now they're ready to go in the oven. I'm going to cook these down until they have a slightly charred effect on the tomatoes and the onions. And then we'll pull them out, let them cool, and I'll show you the rest of the process. Our veggies are just starting to get roasted at the top. Now's the time to pull them out so we can rest them and cool them before we finish making the sauce. So I pulled the vegetables from the oven. I have my 2 eggplants here. I've let them cool for a little while so that I'll be able to handle them. I imagine the inside will still be a little bit warm, so please be careful. I'm going to start by cutting the ends off. We'll discard these. All right. So this is what the meat looks like inside. Go ahead and cut these in half. This is what they look like. I will scrape the seeds out and try to get as much of the meat as I can. Flip these over, make a few slices. You don't have to get all the seeds, but I like to pull some of them out. So I've finished taking the seeds out of our roasted eggplant. Next thing we're going to do is put this in the food processor with the other vegetables and make a nice puree out of it before we continue to the next step of making our sauce. So we're going to add our eggplant right to the food processor. Get all of these in here. And then we can start adding in our tomatoes and our onions. And we're just going to puree this all together. The longer that you puree it, obviously the thinner and smoother that it's going to get. I don't worry about straining out seeds from the tomatoes or anything like that. I think that those go really well. I'll just spoon all of these in. We'll puree this up and then we'll get it on the stove to finish cooking. Got all the ingredients in here. I'm going to use the pulse function to kind of chop it up and leave it maybe just a little bit chunky. Alright, that's looking just how we need it to look, and now we're going to get the olive oil and some garlic going on the stove, and I'll show you the next process. Now we're to the stove top. I've got a heavy bottom pan. I'm going to turn the heat to medium. Then I'm going to add some extra virgin olive oil. Depending on how much sauce you're making, will depend on how much olive oil you need. I've got a fair amount, so I'm going to make sure I get maybe 4 tablespoons in there. Then I'm going to take my garlic. I'm going to push that in. Hold the basil till later. Get my nice trusty wooden spoon. And we'll let these heat up. So what I want to do is I want to brown the garlic, and as it's getting heated up and cooking, I will press it a few times to start pushing the flavors into the oil. I really want the flavor to get into the oil so that it spreads throughout the entire sauce. The oil is getting up to temperature, so now it's time to start pressing the garlic, releasing some of those flavors. As you can remember, I did crush them whenever I was first getting the skins off of them. That helps. These can break up in here a little bit. It's not going to hurt anything. A lot of times you'll see in Italian recipes where they cook the garlic down and then they remove it. I always leave it in. I like getting a nice big clove of garlic that's softened up into my sauce, so I leave mine in. Press those a few times. I'll come back and do this again in a moment. After it gets up to temperature, I also like to add a little bit of crushed red pepper flake. Not very much. You don't want it to be too spicy, especially if you're having guests. You don't want to catch them off guard and surprise them with that. Maybe 1 teaspoon of crushed red pepper. I don't add this from the very beginning because the crushed red pepper flake will burn faster than the garlic will. Okay, right about the time that the garlic starts to brown a little bit, I'm going to remove it from the heat so that I don't burn it, and then I'll add my sauce to the pan. Alright, I've just placed the pan right back onto the stove while I grab the sauce. Now I'm going to slowly add the sauce in. It's going to splash a little bit as the water hits that hot oil, so be careful. And we'll try to get everything out. I don't want to waste any of this sauce. I like these bigger pans because they have a larger surface area, and that helps me reduce the sauce a little bit quicker. Now we'll stir this in, mix the flavors of the oil and the garlic. And then we'll simmer it and cook it down until it's ready to use. You just have to taste it as you go. Here shortly I'll add a little bit of salt, and then we'll continue reducing it. I always add salt to taste. You don't want to over salt it, you'll quickly ruin a meal. So we salt to taste as we go. Careful not to add too much as the sauce reduces. You can have this cooked down in 20-25 minutes. Add a little bit of salt to the sauce. That'll help to combine the flavors and marry everything together. Alright, so now I've just about finished cooking the pasta sauce down. I'm going to add the basil. And our sauce is pretty much complete. I let that rest with the basil in there and let those flavors marry with the rest of the flavors. And you can take this sauce, you can either can it in a water bath or you can freeze it and use it whenever you're ready to have pasta. All right, thank you for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed today's video over making the eggplant sauce. I do like to grab things from my garden. Whatever's in season is what I typically use, so look forward to more videos. And check out my other videos of how I make the spaghetti and how I incorporate the sauce and prepare a meal. Thank you. Hit the like and subscribe button. We'll see you next time.